So he built 6 infantry, 6 artillery, put 2 of his infantry down here in Caucasus, and the rest into Berlin. He did quite a few number of attacks. You can see he spread out his units down here. These guys will be safe. These guys will be safe because Japan's going to cover them up. So he's going to keep these guys. I should be able to definitely take out these guys and probably take out those guys. We'll see if we do or not. His combats, like I said, he did a lot of combats. West Russia was 1 for 1. I'm okay with that. Kazo 1 for 1. I'm okay with that. Persia, he destroyed my 2 AAs and my 3 infantry down there, which was expected. Took out 3 of his ground troops, so that's happy. Southern Europe continues to be his weak link. He lost an infantry and artillery. I just lost an infantry there. Unfortunately, France was the big one that he only lost 1 infantry, and I really needed him to lose more there so that I could pull off the France stack that I was kind of hoping to do. We still may. It just depends on how many units survive. When I'm just gonna say when. France was supported by the HMS Vanguard, UK 3 transports supported by the HMS Vanguard destroy France. We'll see just how much they killed there. After that, there's a lot of options for US, but it's going to heavily depend on what Japan does. So one of the things I did notice is since he took Italy back, and there's nothing that I can do about that, these fighters can go 1, 2, 3, 4, land in Italy. This guy can fly in through there. This guy can fly in through there. This guy can go in there. So, I mean, that's what, 7 units, 7 planes he can have attacked there. I'm not horribly broken up about losing these guys if he does that. I mean, these transports, they have nothing more really to do. If he lets them live, I'm probably just going to sacrifice them anyways, meaning I may take that artillery here to Caucasus and take that with the US, or that artillery I might take over here to France and drop in France if we got a chance for a stack. Or I could, and then the other one can grab these guys and come in to hit Italy possibly. So I'll probably end up just losing them regardless. So it'll be interesting to see what he does or not. But because of that, I am going to go ahead and just leave the cruiser behind too. One more to hopefully knock off a shot, knock off a plane is my hope there. We'll see. We're going to continue to build from here. And I've got a couple ideas. I just kind of changed my mind as I'm just sitting talking this through. So one of the things I'm going to have to watch out for is he brings, 4 bombers and 5 fighters of Japan up, and he's got his 4 bombers of Germany here. We're not going to have a lot of mobility around through this area. So I'm going to need even more defensive navy, and so I'm going to go ahead. I was going to buy for the UK. I was going to buy 4 infantry, 2 artillery, and a bomber. Instead, I'm just going to get 6 infantry, and I'm going to go ahead and build a carrier, even though it's going to be empty. We're going to be bringing back this destroyer, and hopefully this carrier will be coming back too. So we should have enough defensive hits here for next turn. But by going ahead and getting a carrier, that lets me be able to build fighters and or move fighters over as needed. And I got a feeling we're going to need everything we can get on the boat side of things. So yeah, even though it's not as much firepower without the artillery's there and no see 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, and no bomber. I do got my battleship for next turn for hitting with, so we will continue to use that guy for my offensive firepower, I guess. I'll take a look at it. I didn't think about this, and that's I was just kind of considering is I might go ahead and pull back some of these fighters back into um, the peninsula here just to be able to have them ready to be able to hit or fly back if I don't need them in Moscow. I did half of mine consider hitting tank and the 4 fighters down here, but I just don't think that's worth risking the fighters for that. So instead, we're going to clear West Russia with the fighters and grab that guy, hopefully. So, all right. Well, I think that's what we're going to go. I think we got a best bet plan. So I am going to grab because I want to clear France as best as we can. We're going to bring, oops, the artillery back. And we're gonna risk that, I should say. We want to at least kill them so that then we can blitz it with Russia. Hopefully, maybe we get lucky and we can actually take it without taking a hit back. That would be splendid. And we're gonna take that take that 50-50 over there to hopefully slow down Japan's movements there. And there we go. Big kills. 4 hits right off the bat. Come on, battleship. This is what we got you for. This is the glory we got you for. There we go. Boom. All right. And that's what the battleship did its job. And only 1 hit back. All right. I think that should give me the opportunity to be able to stack France. I'll have to recalculate it when it comes US's turn. But yay. All right. 2 kills, no hit backs. There we go. No hit backs. All right. Well, 1. Oh, forgot Australia down here. I'm like, where? All right. As long as I can keep hitting as many as he hits, or more, we're good. Oh, that is not. All right, that's not going to slow him down a whole lot. Well, that was a fail. Oh, wait. If we move him here, and then the Russians move in, Germany could take it out. I need to look. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. So that's a fighter. 1, 2, 3, 4 bombers. Yeah, I think it's worth it putting them up there. I don't want to put the fighters there because then unless I put all of them there, but that's not going to help me with down this way. 1, 2, 3. Well, if they're here, they could come in there next turn and 1, 2, 3, 4. They could hit any of the C zones. I'm going to think about this for a moment. All right, so maybe this isn't smart. I don't know. I'm not a very smart guy, so we're just going to put them in here. And the thing I was worried about as I look at it more is, 1 infantry, even with the AA, 1 infantry, 4 bombers, 1 fighter, comes out even IPC value, and he'll wipe my 2 tanks for sure. And he'll still have some bombers living. Putting the fighters in there makes it bad for Japan to hit, and then I did double check, to make sure that the infantry, 4 tanks, and then all the 4 bombers and fighter attacking here is still like a 1% chance, so we're okay there. These 4 fighters can also still hit Northwest Europe if we need that to trade, and they can still land in France, or they can land in either of the sea zones that they're needed in, or they could come back to Moscow. In worst case, you know, Russia moves out of there. It still leaves 4 fighters and an AA that he could take 4 bombers to, but that's still favoring to me. If he wants to take his bombers out, so be it. So I'm gonna go that way. Pull him back. I'm gonna pull him back this way instead of exposing him, and maybe at some point we have to bring some transports down and help fight the Northern Africa with the UK and Southern Africa with the US if we get into that type of game. So, like I said, I think 3 bombers can hit here, but we still got 4 American hits there. So, hopefully that's still good. 12 attack, 12 defense power, but 4 hit points versus 3 hit points. So, hopefully we're good there. You know what I do want to do? I don't know. I don't know the rules well enough if it'll take place in time for Japan. At one point it used to, and at another point it didn't, and then I heard that it was working that way again. I don't honestly know. I hope it does, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to leave the cruiser there. Oh, sub. We need to get him out away from the destroyer still. I think I'll pull him all the way through to help come back around and watch out for this guy running around loose ends. Alright. Hopefully we thought that through. Alright. I'll apologize ahead of time. This is probably going to be a little bit longer term because there's a lot to talk through here. And this is when we start getting into mixed units and turn orders and all that stuff starts getting where it really messes with your head a little bit. So, well, let's start out with Japan's turn here. So, they bought 4 infantry, 2 artillery, 1 tank, so 7 ground, a bomber, and a fighter. So, still getting heavy air. Fighter and bomber are back here, tanks back here, and I'm assuming the other rest of the ground went in here into these places. He did pull out of Alaska and took Hawaii. Still, they're in range of my bomber. He did take Australia and went back with his transport that way. So, if I can kill these guys, which I do plan to go ahead and attacking, destroy a transport with my bomber, then I'll get to save New Zealand for, a 2 point per turn savings until they get back out there. So, that'll be nice. But the abandon here, that means I only need to move 1 infantry over and I can move other ones over. I'm going to play this a bit risky. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later. But I am going to assume that the bomber kills the destroyer and transport. If not, I'm going to have to pivot. And it's going to slow me down a little bit. But this game just overall is very neck and neck, very close. And I just feel like I can't play conservative right now. I need to be on the aggressive side. So we're going to assume that happens. And then I can take that with 1, and I can move these 2 infantry up here. And if you went over there, I'd be able to retake it next turn. So that's where I'm going with this a little bit. On the rest, let's see. Otherwise, he came into the TJ area. He took Novo for free, and you can kind of see where he moved his different units around Um, got the some more bombers up here. Oh yes, forgot the big one. He did attack C Zone 15, which I kind of expected. So the result of that was he lost 4 fighters and 1 bomber for that fleet. And like I said, I haven't really thought it through. I mean, IPC for IPC, that's what, 36. I forget what a cruiser is. 12, 48, 55, 65 versus 52. So generally speaking, this is IPC positive for him. But you got to remember things like the battleship. I didn't pay for that. That started on the board, right? And the cruiser, I believe. I've lost kind of a little bit of track. Whereas these fighter, the several of the fighters and bombers he's been paying and buying for. So, and then the fact, like I said, the transports were going to be useless for a couple turns regardless. So at the pace where we're going, they're not really going to impact the game too much at the moment. Now, long term, that could be maybe that's a more costly thing. So I haven't worked out my feelings completely on it, but I feel like I'm okay with that. But it also means he does have the mixed 4 and 3 bombers over here, and soon I'm sure this other bomber is going to come join. So he'll have these mixed. The good news is they're mixed, so it's a 4 at one time and 4 at a time that he can hit with. So we can kind of prepare for that. So with that in mind, last time I built the aircraft carrier, I've got 5 fighters here. I'm going to build fighters for America this turn because I don't need the carrier, but I've got the ability to drop 2 carriers in either of these sea zones and land fighters on them in the future if I need to. So we got some different plays that we can do to protect ourselves from the fleet. So that's the good news there. Bad news is I did take a look at, I am going to land. I am going to go ahead and stack France. It is going to require me to pull these units out. I'm going to be giving up Africa for the most part. I'm not going to really challenge Africa right now because I'm more worried about this blitz right now first. And Africa, when we get into the long game, we'll work on Africa. I'm not going to completely ignore it, but it's secondary to I need to get Berlin. A lot of people say that as long as Allies get Berlin, they'll be fine. The challenge is all these tanks, right? And so he's got 7 tanks here that in 2 turns can be back in Berlin, and I can't take even after I just did my calculations. G8, UK8, US8. I'm not going to have odds, even though it looks like I was like, man, he's getting awfully low on numbers here. I got to have odds on that. I'm not. I'm not going to have odds on that, even with these 4 fighters in a range of Berlin where I placed them last turn intentionally. Still not going to have odds, even with HMS Vanguard. So that means he could get these back, and that's another 7 tanks sitting there. Now, yes, that's pressure off of Moscow, but if he's then winning Africa and winning the income game, and he just keeps bleeding fighters and tanks into Berlin, then that is an Axis win in the long run. So I'm going to have to do one or the other. I'm going to have to take Berlin, or I'm going to have to contest Africa. And right now, I'm going to focus on this. So part of taking Berlin is I really want to see if I can dead zone Ukraine this turn so that he can't just blitz all these guys in there, all those tanks into there. And I don't know if I can. I think I can get pretty darn close, and it's going to be extremely risky to do so, and I'm going to do it anyways. And that's going to be splitting my stacks here between West Russia and Moscow. I'm going to be giving him like a 38% shot on Moscow. I'm going to be giving him a chance to crush Russians with just German troops with his 2 infantry, 3 tanks, 4 bombers. But of course, if he's using his 4 bombers there, that means he's not using them on a couple of my other spots here. That'll make it. That'll be. I mean, he'd lose his 4 bombers basically if he did it too. So there's costs. I don't know. we're gonna see. I'm just gonna take the turn. I don't know that I'm doing the smart play here. I honestly don't. I did go back and I'm calculating. He's got 6 tanks that can come through, 2 infantry and artillery. He's got this bomber is in range as well as those 3 and this fighter. It's one of these challenging boards where you got to make sure you keep an eye on all these tanks and fighters and bombers and make sure you don't lose track of them because it's very easy to, and certainly many times I have. This time, I'm actually just giving him an opportunity, and we'll see if he takes it. The West Russia will be the better opportunity for him to hit it with the Germans and then possibly follow up with 4 tanks, 4 bombers, and a fighter that the Japan can hit there. But in between turns, I can move an AA and 4 fighters in if he doesn't do enough job with the Germans. So it's at the end of it. I don't have my calculator, but it's a 50-50 battle that is basically IPC neutral, but it is a lot of Germans taking out Russians, which is scary because Japan's following, and I'd rather him have to use Japan units on them. So, anyways, if I do that, then they're not reinforcing Berlin too, so hopefully that buys me 2 more turns to take out Berlin. A lot of different strategies going on here. That Caucasus battle a couple of turns ago, I'm still paying the prices of not winning that battle. And now, at this point, I'm kind of second guessing. Maybe I should have just sacrificed those tanks and so that Germany couldn't build the 6 units that they've built out here. I don't know. Can't go back in time. So all of that said, I'm buying 9 ground. And so this is the tricky part, right? Is my transport shucking has been all off. So these 2 are going to come in here. These 3 are going to come in here. I need 10 coming in to stack France. These 2 are going back. This guy I am going to bring down to Africa with an infantry artillery, but so that he can come back to France, or we can react as hopefully we're going to see what I can do with my bomber. If it works well, I'm just going to go ahead and say if my bomber lives, he can land over here in the Mexico, Panama area. And the key to either of these is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I have this transport here, it'll give me the chance to where I could transport and bomber down to South Africa if he tries to jump straight to South Africa, being the more point process one. Which I would not if I was him, but he could, and so it's just a dead zone, starting a partial dead zone in there, and likewise this coast will be dead zoned. But that means I'm putting 9 units in here. I'm going to be moving the tank over this turn, assuming this goes well again. So that would give me 10, because I'm only going to have 2 coming up here. I'm going to have 2 here, 2 coming from here, so that's 4. So these 2 transports, we'll be able to take those 4. So I'll have 9 units in a tank for the 5 transports that are going to land here this turn to come back to next turn. Whew, that's saying a lot. And that leaves me Norway. So Norway, I actually want to build 2 fighters so that I can pump into Moscow or France or threaten Berlin itself. I'm going to leave my 1 AA. It's a little bit risky. My 1 infantry back in Norway. 1 infantry, 2 fighter versus 4 bombers is, again, slightly positive for the defense. If I was him, it's something I would consider hitting, though. So I'm trying to give him lots of options for his bombers that he can't take them all. And that way he has to make a choice. Oh, yes, and I bought a sub to throw down here in the Pacific because, again, we're going to kill this destroyer. This bomber is going to win. And then all he has is a carrier back, so he's going to have to either build a destroyer, spend 8 IPC on a destroyer, or send this one back, and it's going to take him a couple turns, and hopefully we can mess with some logistics over here, and I can continue to build. So that's one of the things I do know in a KGF late game is US does want to pivot to start a little bit of pressure in the Pacific at some point. Now, normally I wait until I've taken Berlin, but we're going to start trickling a little bit now. I was debating hitting Italy with 2 fighters and artillery, um, to try to take that small chance that we could take Italy and take away 3 production spots, but I just it's one, it's too risky. 2, I need one of the fighters I'm going to go ahead and bring back to Moscow to help make my crazy move I'm going to do not quite so crazy. So we're just going to grab some money with them. And I think that's everything. Trying to do an eyeball here. Poor. Why is that poor? I do not get those things. We're going to smoke that destroyer and transport. Snaggle raggle. Well, this is partially why I bought the sub too. At least West USA can be defended since we killed the destroyer, because transport can't come in against a sub. It needs a warship to escort it. So he'll continue to New Zealand. So he's going to get New Zealand. I wanted my bomber. But, oh well. And I still can cover Africa, excuse me, Alaska. Whew, I make so many of those silly word mistakes. I'm turning into my dad for sure. 2 infantry and a tank. So, I mean, we got Alaska covered. We'll have West USA covered by the sub. Still frustrating. Again, could he kill them with 2 infantry and bombers? He could. But he can't do all the other attacks too. So, leave the 1 infantry back to give semi-cover for the fighters we're putting in. And happy hunting for the sub. Go have fun in the Pacific. Make them build countermeasures. So here's a turn where I thought about the value of blitzing a tank all the way through and then killing these 2 guys and taking Caucasus so that they couldn't countermeasure and then be able to bring the tank back. But it is a reality that even in doing that, he has, what's that, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ground units alone that he could put in Caucasus on Japan's turn, and then have that factory for Japan, because I doubt I'm going to be able to dead zone 15 units with Russia, to be frankly honest. So I don't think that that's really the best play in this case. We are going to get 4 IPC. What's that get me? 4 will get me up to 15. So I am going to go ahead and build an artillery. to help my weak dead zones that I'm going to have going on around the board here. So I want to do that. We're going to move all in. Push our chips all in. Man, I didn't think about the fact that we could possibly strafe or hit this guy. I just, man, I really want to try to get to a point where I can dead zone tank splits in, all the tank splits in through to Ukraine. I'm sticking with my initial plan. Risky? Yes. Very risky. But I don't care. We're going to do this. Come on. I can push the button. Push the button. Push the button. Push the button. Do it. Do it, Chris. Do it. All right. Here we go. I may just blew this game. All right. We're going to see what Germany does. So, this does get me 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Russians targeting Ukraine. Um, plus potentially at least the 4 fighters. I don't know. I mean, he can still move 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 into there, plus flying in a bombers and a fighter. 10, 13, 14. Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know what'll happen. It was a very risky move if you analyze the board all the way down.